so we're going to begin with our first item of the evening. Our first item is TC 1125, Adrian Ayala, City Transportation Engineer, requesting to designate Linwood Avenue from Craft Street to Nevada Street as a school zone for the Horace Mann School. So we'll begin with a brief presentation, then we'll open it up for public comment, and then hopefully take a vote. And I also see that we are joined by Councillor Malachy from, that would be Ward 3. All right, so this is the location of Linwood Avenue. This is the area that we'll be talking about between Craft Street and Nevada Street. This is an old map. It's the Horace Mann School with a driveway that comes out onto Linwood Avenue. We have crosswalks on Nevada Street and on Craft Street, and we do have students walking up Linwood Avenue and crossing to walk up the driveway and into the school, into the Horace Mann School. So here's a view looking toward the school driveway. This is looking west. You have Craft Street in the background. You have the school driveway right there. So we looked at all the warrants for establishing a school zone. It does meet all of the warrants listed on this page. And so we do recommend adding a school zone onto the street. There's already a school zone for the Horace Mann School on Nevada Street, so this would be the second school zone between Craft Street and Nevada Street. And so we are recommending approval. We have the language tonight to be able to vote on it. That is the presentation for this item. So I'm going to just see if anyone from the public wishes to speak on this item for establishing the school zone. I don't. Okay, I see Michael Grubb. If you could just unmute and state your address for the record.
12 Elm Court in West Newton. I would just like to say I'm in favor of the school zone. I'm a parent with kids who are recently in elementary school, and this helps them get to school safely. So I'm strongly in favor.
Thank you. It reduces the speed limit to 20 miles an hour when children are present. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? Okay. Anyone from Traffic Council? Any discussion, or from city councilors? All right. So I'd like to make a motion then. We have the language in front of us. It would be TPR 979 that we could vote on to approve the school zone. So I'll make that a motion to approve the school zone on Linwood Avenue between Nevada Street and Craft Street. And I would say that, so it's Traffic Council's role to vote to establish this school zone, but we don't vote on what type of signage we'll put in. It might just be just a regular sign, not a flashing sign. Traffic Council does not have jurisdiction on the exact type of sign that could be installed. Okay, and I also see that we're joined by Councillor Wright from Ward 3. Okay, so I made that motion. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay. Katie, would you be able to call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Kosas?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
Aye.
Mr. Fishman?
Aye.
Councillor Downs?
Aye.
That's it, right?
And is Captain Devine with us yet?
He just joined.
Yeah, he just joined. Let me make him a co-host.
Okay. Let's just give him one moment. Okay, Captain Devine, could you unmute? We just are finishing up the vote to establish the school zone on Linwood Avenue between Nevada Street and Craft Street. Would you like to vote on that? It would be the last.
No, I vote aye on that one.
Okay. And so Katie, can you summarize it? Was a 4-0 vote?
Is Captain Divine voting on that or no?
I thought I heard him vote aye.
What did you
That's what I
say?
Yes,
heard.
five.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 5-0, is it?
5-0.
Okay. So we just need to wait for a 20-day appeals period. So that would bring us to April 30th. If there's no appeal on this item, then sometime at the beginning of May, city staff would be able to establish, to put in at least the stationary school zone signs. And we're going to move on now to our next item, which is PC 625, Counselors Kelly, Maliki, and Wright requesting to add stop signs on River Street eastbound and westbound at the intersection of Auburndale Avenue to create an all-way stop controlled intersection. So we do have a presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Adrian to go through the presentation. Just let me know when you're ready to advance the slides. Okay, Adrian?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Adrian Aiello, transportation engineer for the city.
Adrian,
I'll be present-
I can't hear you very clearly. Is there a way to turn up your volume, maybe?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Adrian Aiello. I'm transportation engineer for the city. Tonight, I'll be presenting a always stop analysis for the three-way intersection at River Street at Auburndale. Could we continue, David? Yep. And
Are you ready
continue.
to advance? I can't quite hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Continue, please.
Okay.
So this intersection is a three-way stop. Auburndale Ave northbound is required, or Auburndale on the approach to River is required to stop, while River Street eastbound and westbound, or northbound and southbound, depending on which way you look at it, run freely. We received this request from the community after a couple of crashes that had occurred in late 2024. Continue, please, David. So to establish always stop controlled at an unsignalized intersection, we follow a series of warrants put forth by the MUTCD. Listed on this slide here are all the warrants, and highlighted in red are the warrants that we specifically looked at closer as they were applicable to the conditions at this intersection. So going down one by one, it's crash experience, sight distance, transition to signal control or transition to yield control at a circular intersection, which is not applicable here. 8-hour volumes and other factors. In addition, three-way intersections can also be approved for stop control as a result of engineering judgment based on engineering assessment. Continue, please. So for warrant A, we looked at it is the crash experience warrant. There's two options within this warrant, one for a 12-month period and one for a 36-month period. The warrant states that for 12 months, that if there are 4 more reported crashes in a 12-month period that are of a type susceptible to correction by the installation of an all-way stop control, then you can proceed with that installation. Additionally, for a 36-month period, it is 5 crashes that are susceptible to correction by an installation of always stop control. In looking at the crash records at this particular intersection, we saw 3 crashes that we believe could be correctable with the installation of an always stop control. Next slide, please. Going on to the next warrant, warrant B. This is about sight distance and visibility, and it says that always stop control may be installed in an intersection where an engineering study indicates that a sight distance on the minor road approach controlled by a stop sign is not adequate for a vehicle to turn onto or cross the major or uncontrolled road. In this case, River Street is the uncontrolled road, and based on the speeds that River Street experiences, it has a required stopping sight distance of 260 feet. 260 feet is shown graphically on the overhead map below. And as you can see, the tree does impact visibility. Additionally, parking is permitted within the southern edge of River Street, all along to Auburndale Ave. Next slide, please, David.
Let me just ask a question about this slide, Adrian. So is this basically saying that if there's a car stopped at this green dot right there, if they turn left, they would be able to see, if there's not a tree blocking their path, they would be able to see any car in the travel lane all the way back down to this point, but not beyond? Is that what this shows us?
So what this is showing us is if a vehicle is traveling on River Street, the distance required that they would need to be able to see a vehicle exiting on Auburndale, the time it would take them to react to that vehicle, as well as the time it would take them to brake and come to a complete stop. Yep.
All right, thank you.
So these two slides show an image of River Street looking north. So as you can see on the bottom image here with a parked vehicle, visibility is heavily impacted there. There is a series of businesses here that do use this parking. So this is frequently this parking is relatively high demand. So we do think that the sight lines here are impacted. Next slide, please. Additionally, the warrant D is about the volume. Always stop control may be installed at an intersection where an engineering study indicates that the combined vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian volume entering the intersection from the major street approach, which in this case is River Street, is at least 300 vehicles per hour for each of any 8 hours on a typical day. For the minor street approach, that number is 200. This is the Auburndale Ave northbound approach to River Street. And in the case of River Street, it would be both approaches on River Street. Additionally, if that there's an option within this warrant that if the 85th percentile approach speed of the major street traffic, River Street, exceeds 40 miles per hour, the minimum vehicular volume warrants for the minor street may be reduced to 70% of the values given. In this case, River Street is quite high relative to most streets in the city at 36 miles per hour. Next slide, please. We conducted 48 hours of traffic volume collection on all approaches of the intersection. That's presented in the table shown. So as you can see, Auburndale Ave experiences greater than 200 vehicles per hour for 3 hours of the day, while River Street experiences more than 300 for 14 hours of the day. So the major street piece of the warrant is met, while the minor street in this case is not. Continue, please. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Adrian, I just really can't hear you. Maybe it's my volume that's too low.
I can try to put my microphone higher.
I
Next slide,
can
please.
honestly hear Adrian quite well.
You could? Okay.
Next slide.
Must be me then.
So when we look at 70% of the minor street volume, it is shown in the table here. If we take 70% of the minor street volume, Auburndale Ave, we are able to meet the criteria of the warrant. So that has the stipulation that 85th percentile speeds are 40 miles per hour, while on River Street, they're very high, at 36 miles per hour. Next. Additionally, warrant E says that if there's other factors that an engineering study indicates that an always stop could improve, then that warrant is met. Some other factors include the need to control left turn conflicts, if the intersection would be improved by the addition of an always stop at two characteristically similar streets, and where pedestrian and bicycle movements support the installation of an always stop. Next slide, please. So based on all of these factors, we are, and also the option to install an always stop control based on engineering judgment, primarily the analysis of myself and Ed Codd here in the transportation department. We are recommending to approve this item for a three-way stop here at Auburndale and River, based on our engineering judgment. Ned, is there anything you'd like to add to that piece?
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of expand a little bit upon Adrian's sort of excellent analysis and explanation. And I think what we looked at, and it doesn't, strictly speaking, meet any single warrant, but with this type of warrant analysis, if it meets any one warrant, then it's warranted. This one is very close on several of the warrants. Crash history, volume, sight distance, meets sight distance under some conditions, with parked vehicles. And the 85th percentile speed is quite high, especially for a street like River Street. Kind of the width, the character, frequent side streets and driveways. So we thought that it was our judgment that sort of the preponderance of sort of evidence and data, which also, by the way, this data, the warrant applies for sort of total volumes, not just vehicles, but pedestrians and bicyclists. Our counts are only for vehicles, so that would even be sort of marginally higher if we did have counts for pedestrians and bicyclists. So sort of, again, based on that sort of preponderance of evidence, it was our judgment that it would be best to implement the always stop control.
Okay,
Thank you. Yep.
thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Ned. We're now going to open it up for public comments. I see two so far. Michael Grubb, can you just remind us of your address again?
I'm at 12 Elm Court, so very close to this intersection. It's an important intersection for, it's been an important intersection for my kids in getting first walking to school when they were at Burr Elementary. And then as they moved on to Day Middle School and Newton North High School, important intersection for them to getting to their bus stops. And it's been a barrier to them navigating the neighborhood safely. So just walking along River Street on the south side, where you have to cross Auburndale, even though the Auburndale traffic has a stop and there's a crosswalk there, it's very challenging for a young person to cross, having to keep track, especially if you're, get my directions here. I guess if you're walking west, and you've got to look way back over your right shoulder to see traffic coming from behind you on River that's going to swing left onto Auburndale at high speed, sometimes high enough speed to knock down a telephone pole. And so my kids have never liked that junction and not felt comfortable crossing it. And if the traffic on River Street had a stop in both east and west directions, that would have opened up a lot of navigation in the neighborhood. And I think you'd have a lot higher pedestrian crossing counts at that there if there were stop signs and people felt more comfortable crossing. So I think this is a safe to get to school issue for this junction. There is that flashing beacon to cross River Street right at Elm Street and River. But then once you cross there to get on the correct side of River to head down Pine to Burr Elementary, you've got to get across Auburndale. And not having the stop signs on River Street makes that a pretty harrowing crossing. So I'm strongly in favor of, supporting our kids being able to get to bus stops and to school safely and having those extra stop signs. Because, and I'm glad that the study showed the high speed on the road because people really do fly down River Street. Especially, traveling east, they really fly down. It'll also make the flashing beacon crossing at Elm Street safer with that stop sign having, made drivers slow down earlier. So I think it's going to be a big improvement to this area of the neighborhood.
Very good. Thank you for that comment. Then we're going to go to Barbara and Lorenz of Russo Blazer. Hi, Barbara. Long time no see.
Hi, David. Nice to see you. Thank you all so much. We knew this intuitively, so it's really great to see it in numbers by an engineer. A couple things that just weren't mentioned, although it's clear if you look at it, the mouth of Auburndale Avenue is incredibly wide. So you barely have to slow down to take that turn. Like if you're coming towards Waltham West on River, people fly around that turn, which is why that young gentleman smashed into the pole and broke it in half. And people fly the other way, which is why a woman 2 days previous to that flipped her car on River Street, flipped it over 360. So
180.
180. In any case, I agree with Michael. It's really important. And I do hope it'll be something similar to Watertown Street when that there'll be some kind of light on the stop sign, something flashing because we all know how people drive in Newton. And the more obvious you can make a stop that it's real, the better. So I'm really in support of this. Do you want to add anything or?
I just want to say thanks to our city councilors for the support on this. I've wanted this for ages and it's been in my mind, but up until those last two like crazy crashes, I barely did anything about it, and our councilors have been really supportive, all of them, and Councilor Downs too. So thanks, and thanks to the inspector or the engineers on the traffic council here. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And I just want to say my internet connection is a little glitchy right now. I think it's me that, but I heard almost everything that you said. So hopefully, we'll be able to get through this meeting with the connection intact. Next, I see Jeff Lord. If we can have your address, please, for the record.
Yeah, we're at 6 Auburndale Ave. So in this photo, we're that yellow house. We're actually right behind that yellow house. Hi, guys. We have lived on this corner for 10 years. So we've seen every accident and many before that. And so we echo everything that everyone's already said. We're so happy to see some sort of intervention here because it's the kind of intersection that you like. We have 2 small kids. You hold your breath when you start walking, or you're extra cautious when you go to walk. We are absolutely in support of whatever everyone decides is the safest thing. The only thing we wanted to call out, so it's actually, this is a perfect picture to show you what we're talking about. But so that car right there, that's the blue car, that is our driveway. And so when we go to pull into our driveway, we effectively T-bone the intersection and stop traffic in all directions. And it becomes a sort of situation where I'm waiting for the opening. I'm pulling into my driveway with my kids in the car and I'm like holding my breath, like hoping that nobody comes really fast and hits me, or hoping that I catch a window where I don't block traffic even more. We've been able to manage it. It's not our favorite. It makes us very nervous. I just am curious how additional stop signs are going to either add to that or not, because it's also not safe for the other traffic if we're absolutely stopped in the middle of it. So I guess just asking to consider like what we do about that if we start to pile up cars behind that car there, like what happens to our driveway. And it's really not a matter of convenience. It's a matter of safety, because then we get stuck in the middle of the intersection. but we don't want that to obviously stop the safety things. Like, we want to do whatever is safest for everyone, but it does create a bit of a safety concern on our end as well.
Sorry, do you mean right behind where the blue vehicle currently is?
That blue vehicle
Okay.
is exactly blocking our driveway. So if you can see, if you are literally coming the way this is like showing you, and you're driving down the street and you go to pull into our driveway, which you can do right now because there's no stop, we can't get into our driveway. But we also can't not turn, because if we don't turn, everyone starts beeping and is like, what are these people doing? So then we turn, and now we're now blocking traffic. Like, you know, now if you can imagine, I've created a T with that blue car. The cars behind the blue car are like, what are these people doing? I am like, oh my God, I hope nobody hits me or my kids in the back. It's like a hold your breath situation.
Yeah, so but one thing I can say is I think this will greatly reduce the dwell time a vehicle would be stopped at that stop sign on Auburndale.
Yep.
So currently, vehicles are stopped there waiting for their gap. When there's a stop sign there, it's going to be a much more efficient turnover of Auburndale traffic. So
Okay.
maybe a vehicle will be there a quarter of the time that they currently are, because
good.
they're no longer have to wait
Yeah.
for people to go back and forth.
That's great news. Like I said, we are 100% in favor. Just wanted to flag that, because if this would by chance make that worse, it would probably add a different safety complexity.
Well, and I believe it would improve overall safety just by, you know, if all vehicles on all approaches actually comply with the stop, which is honestly the biggest challenge.
Yeah, true.
Then all of the vehicles going through this intersection will be traveling much more slowly.
Yeah, very true. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
And it seems to be like, if you are approaching, you know, from in this direction from, you know, Waltham Street, and then I don't know if you must sort of make this turn like this,
Yep.
and you must be able to get in. So I feel like if there's, you know, like I guess Ned was saying, maybe this is what you were saying exactly, that it slows down these vehicles. So, you know, so you can turn in. And I do get these messages now that say my internet's unstable. So I'm sorry about that.
I caught most of it. I think you're right. I think everybody else slowing down would make me feel a lot better. It's not a matter of being patient of getting in the driveway. It's just not wanting to get hit while I'm trying to get in the driveway. So I think those are all fail currents. Anything else from you?
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you to everyone.
Yeah, we really appreciate this even being up for consideration, because this is, like others have said, on our mind for a long time.
Well, thank you. Councilor Wright.
Thank you. A couple things before you install the stop signs. The complaint with on Watertown Street, there wasn't a sign soon enough warning people that a stop sign is going to be going in place. And I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, I'm not sure how long that you do it ahead of time, because especially at the beginning in the Watertown stop sign, people were just blowing through it. Two, I'm glad, and not glad, but I'm glad there's no trees right around where the stop sign will be. So if we can get that flashing stop sign, you won't have a problem, because they'll have, you know, plenty of sunshine to operate that flashing stop sign. So will there be able to have that flashing stop sign here?
So our plan is to install stop signs at the sort of extra large 36-inch stop sign on the River Street approaches, as well as left side stop signs. Well, at least on the eastbound approach on River Street, and probably put up advance warning signs, stop ahead signs, extra wide stop lines on River Street. You know, maybe some additional sort of supporting pavement markings. And then we'll monitor the situation, see how compliance is, and if necessary, we would consider adding the flashing stop sign.
Okay, and are you gonna have those, I think the police have it, the big billboards that go,
We'll put up variable message signs, the trailers, in advance of couple weeks, like maybe a week in advance of implementing, traffic change pending, and then new traffic pattern ahead, stop ahead for a couple weeks after that.
I would suggest at least doing it 2 weeks, because some people might come there through there once going to ballet class or something like that. So you might be able to get them if you do it for 2 weeks in advance instead of just one.
We'll see what we can do. We won't be able to deploy any VMS signs until after the marathon.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And thank you for doing this.
Any other comments from the public? Let me look through. I don't see any hands raised. Comments from Mitch. Are you raising your hand, Mitch? Yes.
Thank you. Can you go back to that picture? The photograph showing the intersection? Yeah. So I've been out there a couple times, and this picture maybe is kind of an odd view and it's compacted, but I just wondered if this intersection, particularly the crosswalk that's immediately on the right, Adrian, whether the city has looked at any ability to shorten that crosswalk. I think one of the speakers talked about the length of time in that crosswalk, and it seemed to me that if you put the stop sign, I don't think, David, did you locate the stop sign right there at the crosswalk? I think that's where you probably intended. I don't know if you showed that, but what I always find with stop signs is that the drivers are able to communicate with each other. Where that black car is, say that car wanted to take a left, there would be some communication as to whether they go first or second, or whatever it is. And it seems like it works, the intersection works against you being able to do that. And I wondered over the years whether there's any plans for basically narrowing down that right-hand turn intersection point.
So
Nothing that
not with
Go ahead, Adrian, if you have an answer.
Sure. Recently, when Auburndale Ave was repaved, we did do an adjustment to that intersection there to try to tee it up a bit more. So that approach now, there is a buffer on the right-hand side of that blue vehicle. So there's a sort of a bump out that pushes drivers to a more teed up sort of position there, and that effectively shortens the crossing, although it is just paint at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in favor of this, so don't get me wrong. I did have one other question. So I think, Adrian, you were showing at least you had 3 accidents or 3 crashes in red. And I guess some of the neighbors were saying they saw that. What happened in those crashes? Or what happened with one of those crashes? Or were they all the same problem?
So we looked at manner of collision for each crash in order to support that warrant. In 3 of those crashes, the side swipes ones, they're generally vehicles waiting to turn left and being passed on the right-hand side. So that's same direction side swipes where passing vehicles are scraping up against the passenger side of other vehicles. In the single vehicle crashes, I believe that single vehicle crash was the utility pole involved crash. regarding the 2022 and 2024 rear end, I do not have further details on those.
So they're taking a left from Auburndale onto River Street, or River Street
Correct.
left onto Auburn,
River Street onto Auburndale.
River Street on, and they go along the side, and they have that side swiping or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Well, and honestly, that the description of the single vehicle crash into the utility pole, you know, based on what the participants tonight had to say about that. Honestly, that sounds like excessive speed, you know, coming through a kind of a free left, and that honestly that sounds like one that should probably be read, that would be amenable to you know, just the speed contribution of that would be amenable to remedy through an all-way stop control.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jake Goldman, you can unmute.
So I'm wondering if you could go back. Oh, first of all, I've been involved with that project on
We just need to know your address for the record, please.
my address.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not relevant, to be truthful. I don't want to give out my address, but I've been involved with the project on River Street, that condo project right across from Auburndale Ave for 40 years, maybe. So one, I want to thank the city. It's about time that they did something here, because way back when, kids used to drag race down there. And not only was it dangerous, but in terms of the noise, it was pretty disconcerting if you lived right at the top of the condo complex. So thank the city for doing it. I'm not sure what took so long, but that's not relevant at this point. I'm wondering if you could take a look at that slide 12 and tell us exactly where you have in mind the stop signs are going to go.
Stop sign placements determined in the field with our traffic maintenance supervisor. She's the one who has the crews that go and install it, and she has over 20 years of experience throughout the city installing stop signs and yeah, various other signs in the most impactful and visible locations. So at this moment, we're not able to say exactly where they would go. But looking at this photo here, I imagine in this direction, around where the white line on the right-hand side ends, and then in the opposite direction, about 4 feet back from that crosswalk. So for traveling northbound traffic.
Could you put the arrow back where you think it might go?
So again, it's traffic council's role to decide whether the stop signs are approved or not approved. We don't, in this group, decide the exact placement of where any sign is going to be. That is, as Adrian said, our transportation superintendent, who has 30 years of experience. So I think we'll have to leave it there.
Okay. And what's the new development there where the electrical contractors work? How is that going to affect the exit off onto Auburndale Ave or River Street?
Adrian,
you mean the one down on Elm Street?
Pardon me?
The one at the corner of Elm?
No, the one, you know, somebody's putting up 9-10 units where the electrical contractor building was.
Yeah, at the corner of River and Elm.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how's that going to be affected by this, the stop sign?
It's not going to have any significant effect. I mean, it'll add, you know, a handful of cars to River Street and Elm Street over the course of the day. Nothing of you know, nothing significant that would have any discernible impact.
Okay. So the last couple of things I want to say is, over the years and more dramatic recently, people are coming down River Street and using Auburndale Ave as a cut through to come down all the way to the end. and I forget the name of take a left on Rose Street, then cut by the Star Market there and go down that way. So I think this is a big plus, what you're doing in light of the traffic in Newton. The people that are on roads that were a little more quote unquote quiet are getting a little more use out of them as shortcuts. So I think it's a good idea, and I've been involved with that project probably 40 years now, and I've seen, I want to say ups and downs, but there haven't been a lot of ups relative to the traffic, and it's getting worse. So I think it's a really good idea. The city's doing this. And the last thing I'd like to just mention is the parking in front of the tailor shop and how that affects the width of the road and how that's going to affect with the stop sign, the visibility coming down River Street towards West Newton.
I don't know if Ned or Adrian have any comments. Do we know which building are you talking about? Is it
The
right
tailor
at the
shop. So
intersection?
as you're coming down, let's say you're at the corner of Auburndale Ave and you're looking left. It's sometimes not too easy to see down the street. So as the stop signs are going to be enhancement to mitigate that issue. So I think that's a plus. As you're
Is the
coming down
building you're talking
Auburndale
about,
Ave,
Mr. Gold? Sorry, Mr. Gold, do you know if it's any of the buildings?
yeah, it's building 130. I can see.
Um,
You see it? It's
Oh,
right
on the
outside
corner?
your square, 130. It says,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. He's a sweetheart of a guy that owns that tailor shop. But there's certainly
So it's
issues.
building right here.
Yeah,
on the
right there. And there's parking there. So, and there's an issue if you're coming down Auburndale Ave and trying to take a left. You got to sneak out a little bit to see on the left if you want to take a left coming out of Auburndale Ave because the car's parked there. So I don't know if that concern has been addressed or whether you feel it's going to be a concern.
I think this stop sign installation is largely addressing that concern and would largely mitigate the concern with visibility, given that the right of way would be properly assigned to Auburndale vehicles, regardless if vehicles are parked there or not. That being
Okay.
said, in terms of the stop sign placement there, we might look into maybe depending on the outcome of this vote, look into a parking restriction, maybe the first vehicle on that corner there. To ensure stop sign visibility. But it's something that, that's depending on how this vote and the appeals process goes moving forward.
Okay, once again, I want to congratulate the city on finally addressing this because this has been an issue a lot longer than 10 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Councilor Maliki. Are you able to unmute? Do you have the control to unmute?
Now I can. I think I just did. Okay, yeah. I want to thank you people in traffic engineering for all your past work on this and the research, and Lawrence Glazer for bringing it to our attention, and for the gentleman who just asked about the development down on River and Elm. That would not affect River Street because the entrance into it and exit is going to be on the Elm Street side. And I was very pleased to hear there is such a thing as extra large stop signs because I did not actually realize that. And also glad to hear that you're going to do the stop ahead, warning ahead, which I think is very important on the Watertown Street situation. And I hope if the twinkling motion activated red blinkers on the stop sign are merited, that those will be added if necessary. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Maliki. Mr. Grubb, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think Mitch mentioned narrowing the crosswalk and Adrian said that with paint that had already been done a little bit, and I just wanted to second that as being a great idea, but to say it should be done with concrete because everybody ignores the paint. So, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, that's not anything the traffic council could vote on or fund, or, you know, that's a sort of separate process than this particular discussion about adding the stop signs. So thank you for the comment. And Councillor Maliki, did you have another comment or?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this before we move to a vote? Councillor Downs?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just thinking, as with a lot of streets where we're seeing a lot of speeding, the roads are very wide, the intersections are very wide. And as we go to redo more of our streets, I hope we can find the will and the funds to do the necessary narrowing. The stop signs should help here, but a lot of the geometry of the street, as you're looking at it, just says, oh, you can hit the gas, it's safe, go ahead. So I will be supporting this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. All right, thank you all for your comments. And any additional comments from the members of Traffic Council or city councilors? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Adrian. We have the draft language. This would actually be, it would, you know, we can, on our draft, we can cross off the number 985. It would be TPR 980 to install stop signs on River Street at Auburndale Avenue in the eastbound and westbound direction. That's your motion, Adrian, right?
Yes, please. Yep.
Okay. Any last comments before we vote? Okay. Katie, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
and Councillor Downs.
Sorry.
So 5-0.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. So this passes. We again have a 20-day appeals period. We need to wait until after April 30th to make sure we don't get an appeal on this item. If there is an appeal, then the item is transferred to City Council to make another discussion and a final vote. If there is no appeal, and we normally don't have very many appeals during the course of the year, but if there is no appeal, then after April 30th, we need to do the DigSafe, get approval from DigSafe, and then the sign would be able to be installed. So thank you all, and we're going to move on to our next item. Okay, so our next item is TC 1225, Rhonda Fishman, 85 Norwood Avenue, requesting a change to the parking regulations on the block of Norwood Avenue between Parkview Avenue and Bridges Avenue. All right, so we'll do the presentation, then we'll open it up for public comment. This is Norwood Avenue, and this is the one. So Norwood Avenue, there's 3 blocks. We're only talking about, well, the only one that was docketed is this first block of Norwood Avenue between Bridges Avenue and Parkview near the Cabot School. This is a view looking toward the park from Bridges Avenue. The street is 23 or 24 feet wide, a typical width of streets in Newton. You can see the no outlet sign and the all school traffic sign. Just going back, so when the Cabot School was reconstructed a couple of years ago, there were a lot of changes that were made to the circulation in this neighborhood. many of us remember that Parkview Avenue used to be a through street all the way down to Cabot Street. And the students from the Cabot School used to have to cross across Parkview Avenue to get to the fields and the playground. So when the school was reconstructed, Parkview was dead-ended, right? And Bridges Avenue actually was, the circulation was turned in the opposite direction. So now it's one-way southbound. It was previously one-way northbound, and the circulation sort of went around back to Cabot Street. So those are some of the changes that were made a couple years ago. So now we have the no outlet sign, the school traffic sign. Here is a view looking to the west, again, about 24 feet wide. We see the no parking signs on this first block. And then here's the third block looking down toward Harvard Street. Again, it's 23 to 24 feet wide. Here is a view looking toward Parkview Avenue. You see all the teacher parking. So there's a high demand for parking in this area. And actually this car is parked illegally. This is part of the no parking zone. If the no parking prohibition is lifted, we would expect immediately that staff would be able to start parking along this section of Norwood Avenue, being that is, they try and park as close as possible, right, to the school. Here is, okay, so this is another view of Norwood Avenue looking, this is right near Bridges. I noticed in doing research for this item that in our official traffic and parking regulations, there was a change that was made when the school was reconstructed. And so the official regulation for Norwood Avenue is that on the north side of Norwood Avenue is that parking is prohibited at all times to a point 20 feet east of Bridges Avenue. So really to the east of Bridges Avenue. So this no parking sign is actually in the wrong place. This sign should be, according to our official regulations, on that utility pole. So it's that it would be, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe that's wrong. It would be east of Bridges Avenue. You know what? I think that I made a mistake on this slide because this sign is actually 20 feet east of Bridges Avenue. So let's forget this. I just realized that this is an incorrect slide. So we're gonna skip through past this slide. Here's the parking regulation on the south side of Norwood Avenue. So the whole south side of Norwood Avenue has the same restriction. It's no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. So zooming out a little bit, I wanted to just go over the school-related traffic circulation and the parking regulations in this neighborhood. So here's what the school traffic circulation looks like. You're coming down Norwood Avenue. You have that sign that we showed before that says school-related traffic. Supposed to turn down Bridges Avenue and then, either drop off Parkview Avenue. Other vehicles of Norwood Avenue. This is in this clockwise pattern. This was the best circulation pattern that we were able to come up with at the time that, that the school was reconstructed. Now, also in terms of the parking regulations, these are the official parking regulations on Norwood Avenue. We have the whole south side of Norwood Avenue is no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. these areas shown in blue. And then on the north side, we have this no parking zone, which actually should end at this point, right, to the east of Bridges Avenue. And then we have no restriction on the next block, the middle block. So this is where a lot of staff are parking during the school day. And then the last block is a 2-hour limit, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., except weekends and holidays. So, you know, on weekends, anytime after 4 p.m. or all weekend or holidays, you could park on both sides of Norwood Avenue, except for this one section on a 23 or 24 foot wide street. So that's pretty tight to allow parking on both sides, right? So that's what we have right now. Again, the only item that was docketed was this first block, just this block of Bridges, you know, between Bridges and Parkview. So these were the residents that were notified. These are the only changes that we could really talk about and vote on today, change on this first block. I did want to raise an option for discussion of something broader that we might want to do, we might want to consider for Norwood Avenue. Since we do have so many different parking restrictions on such a short street, we usually don't see that on streets in Newton. It would be interesting to think about if this type of parking regulation would make sense for consideration. A lot of times in Newton, when streets come to traffic council and they're 24 feet wide or 23 feet wide, we talk about safety and the need for emergency vehicles to be able to get down the street at all times, fire trucks, trash, recycling. So a lot of times, you know, over the years, we end up restricting parking completely on one side, one whole side of the street at all times, and then allow parking on the other side, you know, to make it simpler and to make it safer. And so that's something that I would just like to throw out there for discussion, to have no parking on one side, like the south side, and then no restriction on the north side. We already have no restriction on this middle block, right? However, this last block, you know, there's a lot happening right here. We have, during school hours, pick up and drop off, we have a lot of traffic. We have the traffic circulating around. We have other vehicles that sort of ignore the signs and go straight through, or maybe they're residents. We have staff that are parking over here. If we have no restriction on this first block, we would add a whole another set of cars parked on the north side. So I threw out as an option for this first block, allowing parking except, during school days when school's in session, to sort of, provide enough room for circulation and to get in and out of driveways. So I wanted to throw that out, but it's not something that we can vote on tonight because only this first block was docketed. So if there's interest in sort of a broader change on Norwood Avenue, I'd like to hear that. And if that's the case, we would need to docket a new item for the entirety of Norwood Avenue to be able to notify the other neighbors and to be able to vote for a change on the whole street. So all that being said, we have a couple different options for what we could do tonight. We could, hold the item, docket another item, broaden the discussion and have additional discussions, or we could simply focus on this one item that was discussed. The one item that was docketed just for that one block. We could approve it, we could deny it. If we do decide to approve the item to allow parking on both sides, right? Which was what is being requested. And I'm not saying that I would support that, but if we do want to vote to allow parking, to lift the prohibition, we do have language that's written that would allow that. So that's the presentation that I have. I want to open it up now for public comment. I see the first hand is Caitlin Albano, and I know that we do have your, I think that we have an email that we received from you, but why don't you unmute and provide your comment.
Yes, I actually live at 96 Norwood Avenue, so we were also all notified. I don't know how far down they went, but
We just went to, I think, just to your house, just right there.
I have huge concerns about changing the parking. I think it works the way it works right now. My brother is a firefighter, and God forbid there was a fire that he couldn't get to and then had to go into the building. And the emergency vehicles can knock it down that street, even when there's parking on the other side. The other issue is people like me, for example, my house at 96, there's parking on the other side of my street. However, when I try to back out of my driveway here, it's like a 4-point turn, and I drive a Honda Fit. So I think, in my opinion, all of this should be no parking, especially because it's a two-way street. As you mentioned, it's very narrow. And if we have parking on both sides, and even just having parking on that one side, would have huge effects on the travel pattern, as well as safety issues for emergency vehicles trying to get in and out of that area. It was my understanding that this was proposed because some of my neighbors wanted to be able to park in front of their home. I do want to mention that this area, they all have driveways. So something to consider if that was brought up in the initial comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And actually, you sort of reminded me there was something that I was thinking that to mention that I hadn't mentioned before. I do remember, and of course these neighbors would remember much more clearly than me. But I remember when this school was being reconstructed, there were many, many, many meetings, and there were also meetings about parking and where will all the staff park. And there were discussions about, should we add more parking spaces in the green space in the park? And so that, there were meetings about that, and I believe that the end result was we are not going to be adding additional parking for staff in the park. Staff will be able to park in the parking lot and on streets in the neighborhood, on Norwood Avenue, on Bridges Avenue, on East Side Parkway, and also some spaces in the Cabot Park Village parking lot, which they do park there as well and walk through the break in the fence. So I just forgot that I wanted to mention that. Let's go to the next comment. You have Chris Cicerelli.
Hey, I live at 82 Norwood Ave, so right on the corner there. And so I like actually where I can see right now is that intersection. And I'll say that actually during school times, people park illegally there to pick up their kids. And so like I've kind of seen what it looks like when folks park on that corner. That corner coming around is actually pretty dangerous. Like as far as you're showing the arrows as if they're going one direction, but that is a two-way part of the road as well. And so cars can come the other way. And so like, and literally I work from home, so I can see this all day long. It's really difficult for folks to come that corner when there are people parked on the side of that street, just it ends up looking like a one-way street. And I see a lot of people kind of like near miss, slow down, honk at each other, that kind of thing when there's cars parked there. So I think like adding parking there is going to make things a bit of a mess as far as like just folks coming down this I'm sorry, I'm pointing, but down Parkview, and then folks coming up Norwood, they end up kind of running into each other on that corner when there's parking there. I think that like keeping that no parking makes a lot more sense as far as just like safety for folks kind of coming around.
Thank you, Mr. Cithrulli. I think we could see it on this slide, exactly what you're talking about. But this is the block. I believe this is the block where you live. This is a two-way street, even though we do have the sign that directs people if they're trying to go to the school to go down Bridges Avenue. People don't always do that. I've been there many times. It's actually part of my morning walk that I walk down this way. So I do see that we have cars. This car right there is one of the cars that is parked illegally right underneath the no parking sign, right? There should be no parking in this area based on the signage there now, but we do see that, we see cars all the time that are parking in the no parking zone. I don't know if it's for a short period of time or if it's, all day long, but cars definitely are already parking there at times. Let's move on to Rhonda Fishman. And so you live at 85 Norwood Avenue, right?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And I also there are also a couple of abutters on the call as well, but I will go first. There are no other houses on Norwood Ave that I can see, and I've walked down it quite a bit, that have no parking signs in front of them. So ours is unique in that respect. It may have been put up to accommodate the old Cabot School bus route, which went past our house. That's no longer the case with the new bus route. As to the traffic flow, we don't see it impacting the flow any more than on the rest of Norwood Ave. The width only varies marginally down the street. As you showed, it's about 23 to 24 feet. So again, I'm not sure why this stretch of Norwood Ave should be treated any differently than the rest of Norwood Ave, where the width is basically the same.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, and I see is Eric.
Yes, so I guess reactions.
If you wouldn't mind sharing your address, we do ask for that.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, my name's Eric Charlton. I'm at 89. So you're right across from the Smurf house, the blue house there. Yeah, it's weird because there's a small piece of property right next to 89, which is also part of our kind of lot. I don't know how that got broken up a long time ago, but it's right on the left side of the red line, that little tiny sliver of a lot. And somebody put there's like right there where there's a curb, where the curb is. Somebody a while back had put thought they were going to put a driveway in to that property, and they that project got canceled, but there's still a driveway there. So the curb, the curb is sloped, and which makes it by default illegal to park there, even though there's a fence. Like there's no driveway, there's just the little thing. So it kind of inadvertently became a no parking zone or spot on that north side. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because, back to your point, like of that just generally, is there enough room? That one spot is kind of where people kind of pull over a little bit to allow other cars through. And so I'm gonna kind of agree with Caitlin, and say that, like, that the traffic on that left side there is in front of her house 96, where it bends. It's like when you have cars parked on both sides of the street there, it's a nightmare. It's like it's basically a one way street. And so, like, literally every single day, if I'm going in and out of there during school times, it's just like you have to pull over, and people are running over the corner there at, what is it, 100. People, like I've seen that several times, even in the last couple weeks. People have to run over the curb at 100, in order to get around the traffic. So I'm agreeing with Caitlin and you, the point that you brought up in the very beginning, which was, should we maybe take a look at this, this parking situation at another time as kind of a larger issue. Back to this particular proposal. I mean, because of what I just said, because the real jam is down by on that dog leg, when there are cars parked there.
Hey, dog leg, what do you mean?
Yeah, where Norwood has a slight curve.
Right here?
In front of in front of 100 and 90.
Right there.
Yeah, right there. That's like that's becoming a big problem. I know that the people that are there, and then there was a new they just built some new houses, or some new townhouses. Yeah, right there underneath your arrow. So there's extra kind of cars coming in and out of there, and it really is getting very jammed up in there. In terms of the parking in front of 96, which is what this proposal is about. I mean, the cars that are coming around that corner trying to get in and out. Yeah, I understand what 82 said about, it kind of becomes a one way. And I don't know, it's I don't think that's as big of a problem as what already exists in the middle of the street there, like you said. So I guess I'm kind of agreeing that's with you and Caitlin, that probably needs to be talked about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I hope that this is not a confusing slide. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that none of these, the only street that's actually a one-way street is Bridges Avenue, right? I only put these arrows to show the school-related traffic circulation. But school traffic is asked to take the right and to go around, even though Norwood Avenue is two-way. And so I think it's most difficult on this one block, with cars that are traveling in both directions. A lot of cars are coming around and going out, or coming around and going out Norwood, or even coming straight through. So maybe I guess I'll just quickly take these arrows out, and then we'll go on to the next person. So the next one I see is Joseph, and you can pronounce your name and your address, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Joseph Majewski, and I live at 87 Norwood Avenue. I do agree a lot with what Wanda put up, but upon seeing your further reflection and what Eric said about maybe looking at the entire street in general, as Eric said, coming around that corner at 108 and 100 Norwood, even if cars are parked along the north side, it's hard to see around that corner. If cars are coming the other way, if they're coming quick, and you're going towards, where we are at 87, it gets very narrow through there. And then when you have cars parked on both sides, it's even tighter still. my other thought was that that block closest to Harvard isn't that 2-hour limit related to the MBTA station? So I'm not sure if that can even be changed, even on a further discussion for that sort of thing. But as I said, I mean, I do agree. Like I said, I do agree a lot with what Rhonda put out there. But upon seeing your further discussion about the entire street parking situation, maybe that's perhaps what we should look at more so than just part of our location at 85, 87.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to James. iPod.
Yes, hi. I live across the street from the current red zone, which actually is very poorly policed. And so I, most of the time, do deal with traffic there. And it's less than ideal. I think that the current plan is about the best they could come up with at the time. And I think that if the red zone were removed, what would happen was the the circular pattern of the drop off and pickup of students would just completely come to a halt. It would just sit there, and Chris sitting in his office would see it all the time. So I second what Caitlin said and what Chris said, and that's just talking about the traffic flow, and not even addressing what Caitlin mentioned about this emergency vehicles. So I think that the way it is not ideal, but it's a lot better than doing away with the red zone.
Thank you very much. Again, like the one thing that I think I'm the most concerned about is the possibility that we have no restriction in this green area, and we have the ability to park after 6 p.m. and on weekends along this whole blue side. So, the possibility is very, it's quite possible that you would end up having cars parked right across from one another. That's my biggest fear. Anytime after 6 p.m. or on weekends or holidays on a 23 or 24-foot wide street, that's a safety issue. And so that's why I really wanted to consider never allowing parking on one whole side of the street. That's just, plain and simple for the safety of the residents who live there, the emergency vehicles to be able to get down the street. Let's move back. I still see that there's 3 hands up. I'll see if there's additional comments, starting with Rhonda Fishman.
David, I like your proposed legend that where the turquoise line is, that parking just be prohibited between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on school days, because I do agree that that is a narrow, it's narrow, but it's really no more narrow than the rest of Norwood Ave. So I agree that it should be prohibited between 7 and 4 on school days, but allow, just like the rest of the north side of Norwood Ave is, during the rest of the time.
So thank you for that comment. I do want to clarify, though, that I would only recommend this concept in full, right? To have parking during off-school times on one side when there's no parking on the other side. I would not recommend, having sort of the combination of, I guess it's almost the same thing here. Well, it's not quite. I would not recommend, I would not recommend making a change to the north side to allow parking after 4 and on weekends, when we still have parking across the street that could happen, at the same time and end up with cars parked across from each other, right? So hopefully that was clear in what, I was pushing, recommending as an option to consider. So let's go on again to Caitlin.
Hi, I just two things I just want to reinforce. The safety issue is like priority for me, both all day, every day for people who live here and also for the school. I know like the fire hookup is right, the fire hookup is right here at the top of 229. And if there are cars parked here during school time, during off school time, there's lots of sports that happen over the weekend. So this would be full with parking all the time. It wouldn't just be that, oh, we're gonna block it off for that time. It's all day. And again, like Jane said, the traffic flow is going to be a nightmare again, which there was a very, very in-depth traffic study that was done before they put a trial into place for this traffic study, and then was voted on to be a final piece. So I think that if this was that big of an issue, it should have been addressed before they voted to finalize it. Again, I do not agree and do not support the change that is being proposed.
Okay, thank you. And Eric.
Yeah, sorry. I just had a quick thought, and that was that when there's parking during the school day, during school hours, on the north side, the Norwood Ave kind of becomes, where there are cars parked, it kind of becomes like a one way, and there's just not enough room, for cars to go both ways. Is there is it supposed to be wide enough to support two-way traffic with people parked on the north side of Norwood Ave? And that's one question. And another thing to think about is that now that Parkview has been cut short, right, and Bridges became a one-way, Norwood Ave, if you notice, is now like the only way for all those residents to get into that area, right? So if it's just reinforcing your point again that having people park on the north side of that road, it becomes a one way, and it is hard to get emergency vehicles. I can't get my minivan in and out of there. So, with somebody coming the other way. So, I just wanted to kind of reinforce that because of that and the one way of Bridges. And I've gotten trapped before there if there's any utility vehicles and then people are parked on the north side of Norwood, it's like I had to go the wrong way up Bridges to try to get back to my house. And those are my 2 points. Thanks.
So thank you, Eric. To answer your question, on a 24-foot wide street, yeah, it is very typical. It's very typical in Newton to allow parking on one side with two-way traffic. It happens on almost every street, across the city. And even on streets that are narrower, we have streets that are far narrower than 24 feet where we still do allow parking on one side. Then the question really is, when you have a 24-foot wide street with two-way traffic, could you have parking on both sides? And that is what we have now, right? And that's where the concern is. Having parking on one side of a 24-foot wide street, it does add the benefit of slowing traffic down, right? It's it gets tight. You have the curve there. There's, there's also a lot of people walking and crossing. So it is good to sort of slow the traffic down by having the vehicles, the parked vehicles. If we were to remove all the vehicles on Norwood Avenue, there would be nothing really to slow the traffic down. So I think it is a good benefit to allow parking, especially, near the school, and especially that, we have staff, like we said before, the need to have places to park, all around the school on different streets. So Rhonda, did you have a last comment? So I see your hand up, but you're muted.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. You, one of the comments I had, you just made for me, which is nice, which is that in a lot of streets that are 24 feet wide, it's very common to, when there are two cars coming different directions, very, very common for one of them to simply pull off to the side and allow the other one to proceed. And so the fact that that's the same with our street, it just really doesn't differentiate it to the extent that I think the parking has to be affected. And the parking does just naturally allow cars or make cars slow down. So from a safety standpoint, which I think is the most important standpoint, there's safety, traffic flow, and engineering. So from a safety standpoint, that really adds to the safety.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all for your comments. Again, this little stretch is the only area of Norwood Avenue that you can't park. You go down two houses, there's no restriction. You can park here, and then you can park in all these spaces near the park. And then when it's not, when it's after 6 p.m. or on weekends, you can park right across in this blue area. It's just these couple houses where, because of circulation and just all the activity, we have no parking currently. Okay, so thanks again for all these comments. We're going to close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we're going to go to members of Traffic Council and City Councilors for comments. What do you all think we should do here? I'll go back to the different options that we have. Holding the item for additional discussion, hold the item while we docket a new broader item, or just look at this one block, approve it, deny it. What do you think, Councilor Downs?
I actually favor a broader discussion of the street. And I think, well, we have 24-foot streets and people park on both sides and do the yield thing. The unique part about this area and this particular block is that there is a school right nearby. There's high demand for parking and high demand for driving in. I'd like to look at both your proposal and at the possibility of making that one block one way, not because I wanted to make it easier for people to drive through, but just to start to deal with just how tight it gets there and to allow for some parking on the north side of the street where it just appears there's, people are parking there anyway. And I'm also glad we're having this discussion here with Captain Devine in the room, because it's clear that, at least for now, enforcement of the rules in this area is necessary. That's how I'm coming at it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Downs. I think the reason that it was not made one way when Bridges Avenue was turned one way is because, it dead ends, right? It dead ends, and it was really for the residents who live, in these houses on Norwood Avenue and on Parkview Avenue, that if it was one way,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
couldn't get out again.
to
I get
get
it.
to your house, you'd have to go down Bridges and go through school property,
Right,
right?
right.
And
No,
back
I get it.
way again. So it was
Yeah.
complicated, and we didn't have any ideal. I remember this whole discussion of what do we do now
I
that
do too.
it doesn't go through. What is the best possible way to, balance the needs of the residents and then all the school related traffic and the staff and everything. So that's why it wasn't made one way. Mitch.
Yeah, David, I like your option to hold. I think one of the problems with this last block is, that corner traffic coming up, even going slow, but some of them don't go that slow. And, it seems like that park gets a lot of use during the weekends. And, I
Mitch,
think this,
can I stop you for 1 second? I just
sure.
feel like whenever the heat comes on here, I can't really hear.
Can't hear me?
Can you
What do you want me to
say
do?
it a little bit louder?
Sure.
I
Let me
want to
just
hear
put
what you're saying clearly.
I got my volume up to the highest. So anyway, I think holding is the best thing. This is a different kind of block than the rest of the street. People were talking about, pulling behind a car and then waiting for the other car to go down. This is this has sight distance issues. It has the curve, at the street that goes along the park, along the playground. And I just don't think it's a simple solution, and probably would, jam things up even more. But I do understand that the numbers look like the same as other streets, but on the ground it's not the same. Anyway, I would favor your other option.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Anybody? So it sounds like there's not a lot of support for the actual specific docketed item, which was simply to remove I think it was simply to turn this red line green and remove the no parking and make it no restriction at all times. We did have some discussion of allowing parking at certain times, non-school days. We had some discussion of leaving it exactly how it is now, that it's maybe the best we are able to come up with. We had some discussion about broadening the or docketing a new item for the all of Norwood Avenue. I feel like the choices that have come sort of bubbled up to the top are either to leave everything exactly how it is now by denying the item, or holding the item for a broader discussion. Is that the sense that others are hearing? And which one of those two is preferred?
I guess I'd prefer to hold the item and have a wider discussion.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would agree with that.
Okay. What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, it's a little it's a little troubling. I mean, one sense I have is to I know we've had this issue on a couple of streets around Newton Corner where we held something, and and that one seemed to have that was kind of a thing that I was okay with. This one, holding the item and basically opening up the entire street to no parking on one side where it's parking today, is involving, a dozen properties or something. I mean, that's going to become a big issue. And I don't know if in the end, doing that would actually solve this problem. This problem, that last block, this problem, I think you said it yourself, David, certainly during school days, no parking on both sides. And, I guess if there was no parking on one side, the petitioner would be allowed to use it after the school day is over. But I don't know. I just don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling that we're going to even have an opportunity of voting on this larger one because there'll be so much neighborhood opposition. But, that's why holding it for one doesn't seem like the clean way of doing it. But I will go along with whatever everyone wants.
Just to add on to that, I'm not sure if I heard clear support for the remainder of the street. I know I heard lots of support to deny this request, but I'm not sure if there's a need to open up the discussion even further versus just denying this item. I would be leaning towards not denying this item. Yeah.
So your preference is to deny the item and not to docket a broader discussion. What about you, Captain Devine? Do you have a opinion on which you prefer to leave things how they are, or to sort of rattle the cages and sort of have a broader discussion?
I kind of agree with Councilor Downs with the broader discussion.
Okay. All right. Let's take one last comment from Caitlin Albano.
Sorry, just me again. Just one last comment. If it isn't broken, don't fix it, try to fix it. I think that after being at all the traffic studies before the school is and while the school is being built, it was really hard to come up with a pattern that would work. And I think that what exists now is our best option. And it's working when people follow the rules. When people park where they're not supposed to park becomes an issue. So again, I don't think we need to break anything that is already functioning.
Okay. Can I ask a question to you, Ms. Albano? Because I think you said earlier that you're related to a firefighter and you're sort of aware of all this. You live right there. Have you seen any cases of cars parked on both sides across from one another?
See it all the time when I am a teacher as well, but in the city of Boston, and I have no parking. That's besides the point. And when I come home from school every day, there's always parking there. And then during like school events, I literally am just like praying that an emergency vehicle doesn't need to get down the street, because when people are parked on both sides of that street, I know Miss Fishman doesn't think that it's an issue. It's an issue. And talking to my brother, and he's been to my house and he sees the traffic route, he's like, Caitlin, we'll just drive right through the cars. I mean, they're just going to do whatever they can to get to fire. And we don't want that situation either. And so I don't understand. It's really surprising that why would we change something that's already semi-working? I mean, I've called the police department several times when there have been cars lined up. And of course they send someone out, but it has not, I think that area needs to be ticketed in order to change people's behavior.
Right. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So let's say that it is in the evening and there's a school function after 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this middle block of Norwood where there's no restriction on the north side and there's parking allowed on the south side after 6 p.m. You have a 23 or 24 foot wide street with parking on both sides right now. So it seems to me that that would be a reason to make a change and not have the status quo continue.
No, what I'm saying is people park in this red zone that aren't supposed to park there. And so then there's parking on both sides of that street, and then it becomes a one-way.
But I'm talking about like this area.
I'm not talking about changing any of this area. I'm talking about this area here, this red area.
Okay.
And the
All right. So your comments were limited to this one block between Bridges and Parkview.
correct.
Okay. Now I understand.
State to change what it is.
So I guess this is a question to any of the residents who live on the street. Are there times, maybe during a school function or an evening function, where you've seen cars parked on both sides legally of Norwood Avenue, maybe the middle block or this first block? So that's a question that I'd like to ask maybe to Rhonda or Eric or Joseph. Let's start with Joseph.
Yeah, like as we said before, especially around that curve, during on weekends, you get people parked along the north side. Then you have a delivery truck or something comes up, parks along the south side, delivers something, and you end up right behind them. And it's just like I have 3 feet to get between you, and so I can beat my horn. They eventually pull over and get up on the sidewalk, whatever. So that's why I was when I was discussing it earlier about doing because I know that over Madison is right near us and right over there, and they're only parking on one side. Same thing with Newtonville Avenue, even further up. It's parking on the street is narrow. There's a lot, especially during school days, whatever. There's a lot of traffic, and there's only parking on one side. So that's why I was kind of in favor of there. But yeah,
So I'm sorry to interrupt because we do have 4 items after this one. I'm a little bit
okay. No, I got yeah.
I just wanted to ask: are there times that people who live on the street have seen cars parked on both sides of the street across from each other so that a fire truck cannot get through? That's my question.
Yes, absolutely. I have. No, I don't end it there. So thank you.
Eric, are you able to address that question?
Yes, answer is yes. I've seen it where, there's been parking on both sides and it's too narrow. When after 6 p.m. So
Okay.
yes. And Caitlin was talking about like, oh well, it's too narrow on that red part. But I mean, I'm just gonna say it's the same problem with the other parts of the street.
Okay, thank you. Jane, are you able to answer that specific question that I asked? And you're muted. Okay, maybe you can try to unmute and we can come back to you. Oh, I guess, are you giving the thumbs up that you've seen cars parked across from one another? Okay, I think we got that. Okay, so let's go back to Rhonda, but let's have this the last comment before we decide what we want to do with this item. Rhonda, the last word is yours.
Yes, I just wanted to echo what Eric was saying, and David, what you were saying as well, that it's the differentiation of the parking rules on the red strip of Norwood Ave and the rest of Norwood Ave, where this red part isn't any different from the rest of Norwood Ave and should be treated the same way. And in hearing in hearing your proposals, I do agree that there shouldn't be any parking, which is different from what I started out as. So I have been swayed, and I do agree that there shouldn't be any parking, but just during school hours, so that it's again treated the same as the rest of Norwood Ave is treated, and that that no parking will only apply during school hours.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you all. We need to decide what we want to do with this item. It's either denying the item or holding it with the intention of docketing a new item for the remainder of the street. So would anyone like to make a motion
So I would move to hold. And I agree that we may come back and say this is the best thing to do here, but my inclination is to have a look at the larger street issue first.
Right. So we have a motion to hold with the idea that we will docket someone, probably one of the members of traffic council, will docket an item for all of Norwood Avenue between Harvard Street and Parkview to look more holistically. I'm in favor of that for the very reason that we sometimes have parking on both sides. And that's what scares me the most. I want to make sure that the fire trucks could get through all sections of the street. So I would be also in favor of hold. Are there any other comments before we vote? Okay. So Katie, can you call the roll on the motion to hold this item with the intention of docketing a broader item?
Yes. Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
That's 5-0 to hold.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. And we're going to move on to our next item. Is there anything else that we need to say? This item has been held, so when it comes back to traffic council, everybody will be notified, just like for this meeting, the whole street would be notified for the next meeting. All right, thank you. Let's go on. So our next item is PC 1525, Adrian Ayala, City Transportation Engineer, requesting to extend the parking zone on the north side of Beacon Street from Holly Road, where parking currently terminates, to a point further west along a portion of the frontage of 1915 Beacon Street. Okay, so we will have the presentation. This is, I think, going to be an easier item than the last item. Here's the location of Beacon Street at Holly Road. Here's a view looking down toward 1915 Beacon Street. We have the bike lane. And you can see that the bike lane is quite wide. Right now we have parking that ends at this point, but the bike lane is still pretty wide for a little bit further, and then it sort of narrows, moving, further to the west. So an analysis was done that shows that that the bike lane is wide enough to allow for an extension of parking for 2 or 3 more spaces could be accommodated. And so that is the recommendation. This is currently where the no parking sign is installed. You can't park beyond where this white car is parked. That's where the sign is posted. And the recommendation is to relocate that sign to allow parking along this whole stretch up till this point. You can't park within 5 feet of a driveway anywhere in Newton. So that's where the new sign would be posted, 5 feet before the driveway to 1915 Beacon Street. So that is the recommendation. We have the language to allow us to vote on that tonight. So I'm going to see if there's any public comments. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Jonathan Fries.
Hello. I live on Wild Road, which is directly across from that situation, and that's how Wild has 2 an exit and an entrance on Beacon Street, and it's directly the entrance to Beacon. If you're going left, is right at that spot. So I'm just curious, what brought this up? Why are we extending the parking?
This came from the resident who lives in this house that noticed that the bike lane is quite wide in front of their house, and there was no reason not to allow parking. They wanted to allow parking where it could be accommodated.
Okay. It's just curious, I don't know if the engineer is still there, but did he look
Yes.
at the situation of cars going to the west on Beacon Street coming out of Nahoyden Road and Wild?
We did. As mentioned previously, the typical roadway in Newton's around 23 to 24 feet wide. In this case, this is around 50 feet wide. So it can more than accommodate the turns coming out of that side street.
Okay. Yeah, just curious. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this item? We do have one email that we received in support of the proposal to extend the parking. That came from 1915 Beacon Street. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve the request. This would be TPR 981 to approve the language shown on slide 38, which would extend the area from 170 feet west of Holly Road to 315 feet west of Holly Road, so that we could relocate the signs as we described on this slide. Any last comments?
I've
Okay,
always wondered,
yeah.
why we didn't allow a little bit of parking there. Just because the bike lane is so wide that I think most people assume you can park there.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so then can you call the roll, Katie?
Yes. Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
That's 5-0 approved.
Okay, so just like some of the previous items, we just need to wait 20 days. So probably the beginning of May, we'll be able to relocate that sign and allow parking. Okay, so our next item is, yeah, PC 14920, David Kosis, Traffic Council Chair, requesting to update the traffic and parking regulations to reflect all of the changes associated with the reconstruction of Needham Street. So this item was docketed back in 2020 when we knew that Needham Street was going to be reconstructed. This is the area that was reconstructed within Newton, Needham Street and a portion of Winchester Street up to the Route 9 ramps. I think we held, yes, so this was held as a trial back in 2021 to sort of allow all the changes that would be needing to be made to our traffic and parking regulations. We have new signals that were put in. Here's an example. So these are new signals at the Route 9 ramps that weren't there before, that are now in place, that are not in our traffic and parking regulations right now. This is just a view looking down toward Needham Street. Here you can see some new RRFBs, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that have been installed that are also not in our traffic and parking regulations yet. And there's a view near Jaconet Street. And we have all these areas that, that are listed they're actually listed in our traffic and parking regulations, lanes that where the left lane must turn left or the right lane must turn right. So all we're doing here, we're not making any changes to anything that's on Needham Street or Winchester Street. All we're doing is going into our official regulations, our traffic and parking regulations, and adding everything that is missing. the new signals, the new right lane must turn right. All these left lanes must turn left. Just adding them into our traffic and parking regulations. So that's it. So I will make a motion to approve the language of TPR 982 to add all these new signals and pedestrian beacons and left lane must turn left that are missing from our traffic and parking regulations, but are already there in the field. Any comments? Any last comments before we vote?
I'm just happy to see this happening.
It was a long time coming.
Yep.
Mitch.
When are they getting rid of the poles?
That's not a question for traffic council. Maybe you can call. I forgot who it was. Was it David Wade, right? Okay. So no last comments? All right. Katie, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
That's 5-0 approved.
Good, thank you. The next item is TC 1825, Adrian Ayala, Transportation Engineer, requesting a no turn on red restriction on Walnut Street northbound at Commonwealth Avenue. Here's the location right near City Hall, Walnut Street northbound at Commonwealth Avenue. This item was docketed by Adrian. This is what we have now. We have the bike lane, we have the left lane must turn left, and then we have the right lane, which is a through and a right, and you can make a turn on red. There's no prohibition. However, there is a new pavement marking plan that's going to be rolled out, I think in the spring, so probably sometime soon, where we will be adding a bike box. Is that what this is called? Maybe that's not the right name. But this green area, what is that called, Adrian?
It is a bike box, yes.
Bike box, okay, good. So we're adding this bike box right at the front. So when you have a bike box at an intersection, you are not allowed to drive over it to turn right on red. So that is the reason that we want to add the no turn on red sign, make it safer for pedestrians, make it safer for cyclists as well. So that is the item. Adrian, is there anything to add, or did I get it all right?
That's correct. Yep. It allows cyclists to get in front of traffic if they're turning left, to be able to make the left or through movement much more safely in front of traffic rather than with the traffic.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the language of TPR 983 to add the no turn on red sign. When is the bike box going to be painted? Do we know? Is it imminent?
Not before June 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we're going to
I would
be,
say maybe mid-June.
okay, so we could still wait till May, and then we could still install the no turn on red sign. Sort of,
yep.
I think it's probably even a good idea to have that no turn on red sign before the bike box is even painted. So I'll make that motion. And any last comments? Okay. Katie, can you call the roll, please?
Yep. Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
5-0 approved.
Thank you. And our last item tonight is TC 1925, Adrian Ayala, Transportation Engineer, requesting right lane must turn right restriction on Commonwealth Avenue eastbound at Day Street and Fuller Street. So this is the location, Commonwealth Avenue at Fuller Street and Day. Here's a view on the ground. So we see Commonwealth Avenue heading eastbound. We have two lanes that sort of merge into the one lane. And we have Day Street to the right, and also Fuller Street also to the right. And so the recommendation, this is the pavement marking plan, to paint arrows in the road so that the right lane must turn right either onto Day Street or Fuller Street. The left lane is the through lane at that point. And there is only one lane beyond Fuller Street. So our recommendation is to approve the right lane must turn right. And I will just go ahead and make that motion. This would be to approve the language of TPR, oh gosh, what is it? 984. For the right lane must turn right, Commonwealth Avenue eastbound onto Day Street and Fuller Street. Mitch.
I didn't see it on the graphic, but maybe Adrian could describe it. Adrian, further up near the fire station, how does that lane get announced?
So there'll be two advanced warning signs with the lane assignments. That would be starting right around the fire station. So any vehicle that crosses, if you cross the Washington Street intersection, right after the fire station, you'll begin to see those signs, and then shortly after, you'll begin to see the arrows. Right now, we have two lane ends signs. We would remove those lane end signs with right turn only signs or lane assignment signs.
Yeah. I go by the intersection, where the stoplight is on the other side of the fire station, on the other side of Route 16, and people who line up in the right lane, they often don't make a right turn on Route 16. They continue straight, and of course the middle lane goes straight, and then there's a left lane that allows you to turn into Route 16 towards West Newton. And if you seems to me, if you were to go in the middle lane, that middle lane would be the through lane, that you would go on Commonwealth Avenue, and that right lane maybe would be the one where you could, spill off into Fuller or the other side street. But I guess the only thing I fear, and again, I'll vote for this, but the only thing I fear is that's such a confusing location when the split comes, that unless the pavement stuff or whatever directs you, it may be too little, too late. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tried to maximize the length of that transitional lane right up until the fire station parking lot, so as to not have the merge right in front or right after the intersection, but rather a bit of time so people could see the warning signs and make the movement prior to the intersection.
Well,
on the west side of with the lane assignments, I think. I know we do have to have the queuing space there for queued vehicles going. It is quite a large volume of vehicles there, but maybe we could look into a sign on the west side of before you cross the intersection.
Yeah,
that communicates further down.
Some communication.
I think we could definitely look into that.
The other thing I was going to ask about, and I don't know if you got a blow up of, I guess you had the pavement marking one, David. Yeah, that one. So when you come out of Day Street is two ways, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how does that work? You can't go straight through. You have to just make a right turn onto Fuller.
I believe you can go straight through.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. With this particular arrangement, is that a safety issue or something you have to deal with, or you kind of try to figure it out once you put it in?
I don't think it would make the situation worse for people exiting there. If anything, slightly easier with the lower volume of right turning traffic that would be in the first lane there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Something.
I think
Yeah.
exiting that approach is already quite difficult. I will say that the engineering department is looking into some conceptual designs for reconfiguring that the middle corners here
Yeah.
to maybe tee up both the intersections and shorten the crossings. That design's currently in the conceptual stages, but I do think something new will be out there for the day
Yeah.
approach within the next year or so.
I mean, I think the concept is good. I'm just saying maybe there's other things that need to happen also. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think there's a lot in the pipeline as for improvements for the corners here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Okay, any other comments before we vote on the motion? Okay, so Katie, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Ayala,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
5-0 approved.
Okay, and that's TPR 984. And that concludes our business for tonight. We do not have a traffic council meeting in May due to the budget meeting calendar. So I believe our next traffic council meeting is going to be on June 12th. So we'll see all of us or most of us at that meeting. So thank you all for tonight and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.